Our top stories this week, election results and highlights.
An indictment handed up in the Post Road hit-and-run case.
How should the school board deal with gifts and a donation of labor to improve the Larchmont Reservoir?
Should you refinance your home? We'll have some tips on how to finance a college education. We'll have some help on that problem, too.
And protests by animal rights activists hit Mamaroneck. Hello and welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Bill LIttauer.
And I'm Roger Norum. Our top story, election night 1991. On November 5th, area residents turning out to keep pretty much everyone who was on the town council right where they are. A sweep for the Democrats. Of course, town supervisor Caroline Silverstone ran unopposed, and town deputy supervisor Elaine Price also kept her seat on the council. Kathleen Tracy O'Flynn retained her seat at the town center.
After last Tuesday's election, only about 50 votes separated Democrat Paul Ryan and challenger Valerie O'Keefe. If there's no change in the outcome, Ryan will remain on the town council to finish out the 2-year unexpired term of council member Stephen Chapin, who resigned earlier this year. Roger?
Right about here, we're going to show you a few of the highlights from election night as LMC-TV dispatched special crews at both Republican and Democrat headquarters with Eileen Deutsch and Nancy St. Leifer, as well as Brian Wilson and Greg Federbush and Mike Kachi doing camera. Let's take a look.
They tell me that I won too. My competition is really stiff.
The preservation of open space is going to be a very important issue, and also how we can best provide essential services cost efficiently. We won't be getting the state monies that we've gotten in the past, so it becomes more of a challenge to offer a lot of these services that people have come to expect.
The voters apparently think that we're doing a good job, that our look-at-forward planning is the correct thing to do regarding the motel and the Bonnie Briar and the daycare and everything else we're doing. We're planning for the future instead of being simply caretakers.
I know so many people in our community, and I've spoken to them, and I really did feel comfortable that they recognized that I was working hard to find solutions to problems, and that's as good as it gets. No hype, no rhetoric. I'm just out there working, and so I'm in touch with the people that are my supporters. They're my friends.
The Republican Party is getting its hands around some of the bread and butter issues of real human suffering in this town, and we were listening to people. And I think that the Democrats better start listening to people that they haven't been listening to. I think that's indicative, especially when you look at some of the fancier neighborhoods. They all went for the Democrats. Some of the less affluent places went for the Republicans.
I think the time to start working on the 1993 election is now. And if we start on it now in the next couple months and start building our base and getting our district leaders intact, getting everything worked out, I don't think we're going to have any question, but in 1993 we're not only going to be on the board, but I think we have a good chance of having 2 or 3 seats on that board.
And we hope that the Democrats will bring the public into government. They won't be making the mistakes they have been making in the past, because the town needs input from the people, because they're not getting people on the board.
Mamaroneck resident Gregory DeFalco has been indicted in last month's hit-and-run case that left Rye Neck High Schooler 15-year-old Karen Petrillo dead. Last Thursday, Westchester County DA Carl Vagari announced the indictment of 26-year-old DeFalco on 10 counts. He's charged with vehicular manslaughter, criminally negligent homicide, leaving the scene of a fatal accident, and driving while intoxicated. Karen Petrillo died after being struck while crossing the intersection of Keeler and the Post Road on the night of October 5th. DeFalco is out on $10,000 bail. If convicted on the manslaughter charge, DeFalco could face between 2 and 7 years in jail. The next step is another arraignment for DeFalco, this time before the Westchester County Court, likely in the next couple weeks.
The Larchmont Police Department is looking for an office assistant. The job pays $25,000 to $28,500 a year. If you're interested, call the department at 834-1000. You need a high school diploma or equivalent and 2 years clerical and typing experience. At least 1 year of that experience must have been with a law enforcement agency or an emergency services agency.
Some Larchmonters in tow, literally. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Sven Oehme with details.
The first weekend of November, Municipal Lot Number 1 enlargement got a new surface, and 25 motorists who left their cars in the lot didn't find them when they came back. The cars had been towed to allow for the repaving of the lot. The bill for the towing, $80.44 for each car. Angry drivers charged that the village had not posted signs early enough to notify users of the parking lot. The village concedes that the notice may have come a little late and blames the bad weather conditions during the preceding week. It was the week of the severe storm on the eastern seaboard for the delay. Regardless, the towing bills have to be paid. Perhaps next time the village plans to resurface a lot, it will give advance notice, and if we get the information in time for our news program, we will tell you about it. A big beautification effort has changed the appearance of Lorenz Park enlargement. Enlargement Nurseries and Tony's Nurseries, volunteers, village employees, and local politicians made it happen. 70 trees have been planted, and the nurseries that border Lorenz Park have also improved that border. Further plans call for clearing the marsh area of Premium River that flows on one edge of the park.
Vandalism on Halloween night, and Dracula is missing. We get details from LMC reporter Kimberly Simonton.
Armed with about 1,400 eggs, groups of young people bombarded police officers, automobiles, and house windows around Larchmont on Halloween. One Larchmont resident estimated that the pack grew to 150 kids by the end of the night. 120 egg cartons were picked up around the neighborhood. At a public meeting last week, Larchmont residents demanded a prevention plan for next year. Mayor Miriam Kernan didn't think it was possible for the village board or the police to tell the youths they must behave. The mischief continued with the taking of Dracula. Mrs. Sherman and her 4 children spent 5 days making the count. He hung in front of their Larchmont home for 2 weeks before somebody snatched him. Sherman said that they will make another one next year, but it will probably not be as fabulous and as desirable as this Dracula was. The village of Larchmont is looking to borrow $170,000. The breakdown is as follows: $48,000 for a 258-space parking lot between Depot Ways East and West paved on November 3rd, $60,000 for 2 sewer repairs, one on Sherwood Drive, the job was finished in August, the other on Larchmont Avenue, and then $62,000 for a dump truck. The money will be borrowed on 5-year bond anticipation notes, which must be renewed annually. This means that the interest rates can change each year. Carmine DeLuca, village treasurer, suggested lumping $700,000 worth of capital expenditures under one 20-year serial bond. Interest rates would remain fixed and payments would be spread out over time, easing the burden on taxpayers. The village may adopt this strategy next year. Nearly 8 years ago, a Larchmont house was burglarized. The thieves got away with an oil painting worth somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000. Last week, the painting showed up on an auction list for Christie's studio in New York City. Larchmont detectives have no word yet on how the painting made it to the auction house. They are continuing the investigation.
An anti-abortion sign was stolen Halloween night from in front of Most Holy Trinity Church on the Post Road in Mamaroneck. The sign stirred some controversy and brought several complaints to Village Hall since it was placed there midsummer. The pastor of the church, Reverend Joseph Irwin, says the 8-by-4-foot sign has been attacked before, and removing the sign, he says, doesn't change the message. Father Irwin says he hopes to put another anti-abortion sign in front of his church in its place very soon. Bill?
Mamaroneck Town Police say a rubbish fire at the Larchmont Acres East apartment complex may have been arson. A small pile of flaming rubbish was found in the middle of a basement hallway about 2:30 in the morning, October 30th. Firefighters had to break through a locked basement door to get to the fire. Although it was quickly extinguished, smoke from the fire forced the evacuation of building number 5.
A local furrier, the scene of a protest. For more, here's Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Greg Federbush.
On November 2nd, a group of animal rights activists protested outside Danny Fusco Furs in Mamaroneck.
I'm from Westchester County, and I'm part of the group which is protesting against this particular fur store and other fur stores because of the cruelty involved in the fur trade, either leg hold trap, which an animal is caught by its leg in the forest and it dies a slow death, sometimes of gangrene, sometimes it chews off its own leg to try to escape. Or a fur ranch where animals are kept in tiny cages and then killed by rather barbaric methods, all because of a vanity issue, which has nothing to do for human health or not necessary for food, or it's just plain to make money. It's like torture for profit. That's the trouble with the fur industry. Cruelty issues that we can't.
How do they handle it when the owner of the store confronts them?
Well, the owner comes out. If they're nice and they want to debate it, then we'll talk with them and present our point of view and listen to theirs. What happens more often than not is that they get rather abusive.
We also asked how many people who pass by care about buying and wearing furs.
I'd say 9 people out of 10 are sympathetic with the cause, and maybe only 1 says, we should kill him if we want to.
I think it's a very small percentage of people that believe that way, you know. I believe everyone is entitled to believe as they please, you know, but as long as they don't harass people and stay, you know, with a distance and not bother people, they're entitled to their belief. I don't believe that way, but they're entitled to their own belief.
They think it's threatening their livelihood, and they're not willing to listen to reason.
I don't think that they have a tremendous effect on the business. I really don't.
They don't encourage the business, but they don't really affect it. They're hypocrites. They're all wearing leather shoes, leather bags. They, I don't think that's right. They probably all eat meat. Look at the type of people they are. They have nothing better to do. They harassed me. I had brought my coat in from wearing it last night, and they harassed me, which they don't have any right to call me a murderer. You know, I didn't kill the coat. I like to keep warm during the winter.
A lot of them don't even seem to care at all about the cruelty issue. It just doesn't bother them at all.
I don't believe that way, but they're entitled to their own belief. Listen, I'm in this business all my life, and if I don't do this, I don't know what else I'm going to do.
Thanks, Greg, for producing that story. And about here, we would like to remind you out there that we are all volunteers here on this news program and would like to invite you to join a pretty exciting community activity. Later in the program, we'll give you details on when and where we meet to produce this show. Bill?
It may not be a lot, but every little bit helps. We're talking about street repaving. Mamaroneck Village has been given nearly $100,000 from the state's Consolidated Highway Improvement Program. It means an extra half-mile of side streets can be paved this year.
Now here's LMC School News reporter Monique Citron with this week's report on education issues.
As the winds whip about these cold, chill mornings, it's nice to know that Rhinebeck kindergartners at F.E. Bellows School started their school year off with a welcome breakfast of pastries, applesauce, milk, and juice. We hope all 94 live up to the goal of 1, to learn to tie our shoes. Rhinebeck was recently the object of a feature story in the Gannett Press. It seems that smallness encourages students to take a leadership role in the many extracurricular activities. Everyone knows everyone else, and whatever you do can have an impact. Meanwhile, over at Mamaroneck, there's help for high school social studies students struggling with English. A new sheltered class to help English as second language students master history has been inaugurated. U.S. history is a requirement for high school graduation, and trying to master the U.S. Constitution can be daunting when you don't know the language. ESL students can get help from the Center for Continuing Education. ESL instructor Mary Duffley asked people who want to volunteer to help to contact her at the high school.
We've all been in traffic jams at one time or another, and we may have a little help for you. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Sven Oehme has that story and an interview.
In our studio tonight is Michael Kelly. Michael, you have written a very interesting book. What is it all about?
Thank you. The book is Traffic Escapes, and it helps people to get out of traffic on the highway in rush hour. And it'll bring you into a safe route. Mm-hmm. That's very important, the safe. And it'll get you back further down on the highway past all of the traffic.
Mm-hmm. Now, what happens? Let's say I want to go from Mamaroneck to Kennedy, so I'll take your book with me, and then I get stuck someplace, and what do I do?
Well, the first thing, you should have read the book the night before, right? And you set up a plan. Most people go to Kennedy without a plan. And believe it or not, the best way to Kennedy is not on the Van Wyck, which most people take, and most people are advised to take it. The best route is the Throgsneck Bridge, Clearview Expressway, and some city streets. And you can guarantee about an hour from Mamaroneck in rush hour.
To Kennedy.
To Kennedy, right.
And whatever happens.
That's right. But most of the time you stay on city streets. Because you can't take Mamaroneck from here to Mamaroneck to New Rochelle is a 3-mile run. You get stuck on that, forget it.
Where can we get the book?
Anderson's in Larchmont, and the Wild Muse. It's a little shop in Mamaroneck. You can also get it from me directly, 967-1195.
What's the
price is $8.95, and it costs quite a bit more than that. This must have cost $30,000 to develop. It took me 2 years.
Just one more quick questions. Which areas do you cover?
The airports, now we have 287, I-95, the Hutch, Upper New York, Westchester, and we're expanding it all the time.
The Mamaroneck Board of Education is scheduled to decide on a new gift policy December 10th. The board is trying to devise a more equitable system of dealing with donations. Receiving gifts is apparently quite a problem in the school system. For example, one board member says the tipping of custodians at school events has created some incredible working tensions. And then there are gifts that might create disparities between schools, or gifts that might affect curriculum, such as books that might present a particular point of view, a view the board may not agree with.
In less than a month, if you live in the village of Mamaroneck, you're going to be asked to head over to the Mamaroneck Free Library and vote on a proposal that would carve out the current way the library is financed and create a library district. Basically, as Library Director Joan Grott explains, it's a way for the library to be more independent of the village. The key aspect of the newly proposed district in the library budget would be decided every year by voters, and it would not get involved as a political football at the village level. To find out more on this library district proposal, you may want to attend a public meeting at the library Thursday night, November the 21st. It's being sponsored by the Mamaroneck League of Women Voters. Any questions you may have about the December 5 referendum can be cleared up at this meeting. By the way, the reason the vote is being held on December 5th and not being delayed until the village elections in March is because of the mechanical aspects of the budgetary process, and it just made it more practical to have the vote next month. Bill?
The cost of money is getting cheaper, and it may save you some money. Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Randi Norum explains.
Here's a financial fact that might save you some big bucks. You may have noticed last week's cut in the discount rate by the Federal Reserve. But that key interest rate is now at its lowest level in nearly 20 years. And since banks and other lending institutions are going to buy money more cheaply, you might look into possibly refinancing your home. Interest rates for home mortgages are now in the 8 to 9% range. And if you have a current mortgage at 10.5% or higher percent interest rate, you could be in for some big savings if you refinance. The first step is to check with your current mortgage holder and see what sort of a new deal you can make with them. Next, shop around. Ask a few banks, savings and loan institutions, and even mortgage brokers. Remember, the cost of borrowing money now is a lot less than it's been in nearly 2 decades, and that could translate into a very big savings for you if you play Let's Make a Deal and refinance your mortgage.
Thanks, Randy, for your financial facts.
And the cost of education is soaring, but there are ways to cope. We get details from LMC reporter Monique Citron.
If you're a parent who's reeling from tuition shock, Ellie Fredson of Mamaroneck's Financial Aid Office is here to help.
Thank you. I'm actually here to plug our financial aid workshop, which will be held Tuesday, November 19th, 7:30 p.m. in the Mamaroneck High School Library. Getting into college is part of the problem, but the other half of the job is Let's start over. Getting into college is half the battle. Paying for it is the other half.
How can the Financial Aid Office help?
Well, we really give a lot of advice. Unfortunately, we don't give any money. But we are going to, in order to apply for financial aid, it's often a very confusing and complex process for parents, and that's why we hold this workshop. We have a panel of experts to help the parents and the student get over this hump.
I understand there's a form that's necessary to fill out that can be a little daunting.
It's more than daunting. It's really a very tough form to fill out, and the workshop will help simplify that. Brother David of Manhattan College, he's Associate Director of Admissions and of Financial Aid, goes over this form, which is called the Financial Aid Form, or the FAF. And he goes over that line by line to help students, and he simplifies the whole process enormously.
And then this financial aid can fill the gap for students who are in need.
It determines how much a family can contribute toward the student's education.
And the good news is that there's money available.
There's lots of money available. There's federal money, state money, local money. We live in a very generous community. And another person on our panel will be Rita, who is chairman of the Mamaroneck-Larchmont Student Aid Fund. And they gave, about 44 scholarships last year just to Mamaroneck High School, and it totaled over $100,000.
Remember, the workshop is Tuesday, November 19th at 7:30.
Some new leadership for Mamaroneck Village politics. Dennis Cusinella has been elected the new chairman of the Village Republican Committee, replacing Joseph Lanza. Cusinella is a draftsman and had been vice chair of the Village GOP since 1988. Cusinella is getting right to work. He's interviewing prospective candidates for Mamaroneck Village elections to be held in March already. 3 trustee seats being held by the Democrats at the moment are the goal of Cusinella. For the Democrats, committee chair Vera LaFollette, who's been in the slot on and off since 1984, has stepped down. A new chairperson for the Mamaroneck Democrats at the village level will be Jacob Goodwin. Bill?
An area Eagle Scout soars with an ambitious plan to improve the facilities at the Larchmont Reservoir. LMC reporter Paula Panarella has that interview.
Hi, this evening we have Mark Radulovic here, who's 17 and who's with the Boy Scouts of Mamaroneck, Troop Number 2, who hopes to renovate a building built in 1917, who was done by the troop, his old troop, which was quite some time ago. How did you stumble across this building?
My troop master, who I'm pretty close with, he gave me the idea because he was by the reservoir and he saw this cabin, and he had talked with the ranger, and it needs a lot of work, and figured it would be a good Eagle project. So that's how I came across.
So in doing this renovation here, you'll be getting the highest award, I believe,
That's
for
correct.
the Boy Scouts.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's the Eagle badge?
Eagle Scout.
The Eagle Scout,
Right.
sorry.
It's takes a lot of time.
Eagle Scout,
Right.
sorry.
It's takes a lot of time and a lot of hours, and it's a very worthwhile achievement.
The Big Emlyn Chorus Raffle has been held. Monique Citron tells us who won in her interview with Judy Rosner.
Judy, what an exciting raffle. Tell us what we're seeing.
You are seeing the drawing of the Emlyn raffle for the Emlyn Chorus. We bought tickets this summer for Miss Saigon, and we had a drawing this past Tuesday night. We had a lucky winner. One of our members has someone that he works with that won the ticket, and he has 2 orchestra seats to Miss Saigon in January.
To benefit the Emlyn Chorus.
To benefit the Emlyn Chorus, to help us pay for our season.
I understand you made $500?
Well, we think it's somewhere in the vicinity of $500
That's wonderful.
after we paid for our tickets and printing of raffles.
And now when is the concert going to be?
The concert will be Tuesday evening, December 10th at 8 p.m. It will be a holiday concert. We will have a little bit of classical music by Bach and Buxtehude. We will have a lot of holiday favorites, some very unusual carols from around the world, and excerpts from Hansel and Gretel.
It sounds wonderful, and we hope everybody comes.
If you want to know more about the history of our community, you'll want to pay close attention to this report from Gloria Posha-Pritz of the Mamaroneck Historical Society.
I'm extending an invitation to all of you for 2 programs to be given at the Mamaroneck Free Library meeting room. That is in the Emlyn entrance. On Sunday, November 17th, that's this Sunday at 2 p.m., the program co-sponsored by the Friends of the Larchmont Reservoir and the Mamaroneck Historical Society will be presenting a program on archaeology and the mills of Westchester County. Now, Jay McMahon, the archaeologist, will be telling us about the history of mills in Westchester and how to find them and how to differentiate between them and how to restore them. And in addition, our other program will be Wednesday, November 20th at 7:30 p.m. when Judith Doolin Spikes will speak on Larchmont. Now, is there perhaps something you wish cleared up about the Larchmont history, or perhaps you've missed it? Well, do plan to attend, because you know that Mrs. Spikes has written a number of books on Larchmont. So we have 2 times, 2 dates, 2 programs. Sunday, November 17th, 2 p.m. on Archaeology and Mills, and Wednesday, November 20th at 7:30 p.m. on Larchmont with Judith Doolin Spikes.
Now, some area reminders. The Motor Vehicle Department in White Plains near the county center, it's closed until further notice for renovations. The Motor Vehicle office in Yonkers or the Bronx are the closest ones to use until the White Plains office opens again, and it's not clear just when those renovations will be finished.
Also, there are still several boats tied up to village slips in the Harbor Island Park. Harbor Master Jim Mancusi reminds us all they have got to be moved now or else. They were supposed to be out of the water by November 1st. Bill?
And that's it for another edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. As you have probably noticed by now, you can now see our program at 7 p.m. and midnight, Monday through Friday.
There's a brand new news program every Monday. So at least once a week, after your national and international network news, tune us in on Channel 36 and see what's happening in our community.
By the way, you are also invited to stop by and see how the news show is put together. Come to the LMC-TV studios on a Thursday night around 7 o'clock. We're in the Palmer Avenue unit of the Mamaroneck High School, just up the stairs from Walter's Hot Dogs. All of us volunteers would love to meet you.
Thanks for watching Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Roger Norum.
And I'm Bill LIttauer. We'll see you again next week at the same time. Our top stories this week: Mamaroneck moves to make a dangerous intersection safer.
The losses are mounting into the hundreds of thousands of dollars in the Jean-Pierre caper.
Brown water shows up in the Larchmont Mamaroneck area. We'll tell you why and what's being done about it.
Scrambling to save the premium river marsh, and a new campaign to stop Long Island Sound pollution.
Welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Bill LIttauer.
And I'm Kimberly Simonton. Mamaroneck Village officials are taking their own steps to make the Keeler Avenue-Boston Post Road intersection safer. Stop signs have been painted, lighting has been improved, and 2 flashing beacons will be placed on roads leading to the intersection. The police have also increased their presence in the area. Since the state owns the Boston Post Road, the village has no authority to install the traffic light. Last month, the village asked the New York State Department of Transportation to conduct a traffic study at the intersection. That study is not expected to be completed for some time. At least 30 accidents have occurred at the site since 1987, including the death of young Karen Petrillo. Bill?
Now that the weather has turned colder, a number of area residents have made a shocking discovery. Their fur coats aren't in cold storage, and they may be out in the cold. The coats were left at Furs by Jean-Pierre in Larchmont, but anyone trying to claim their furs now finds only a vacant storefront. Owner Anastasios Kotsikas was arrested and charged with robbery in July. His son George then told police in September that coats were missing from the store's vault. Now police say 52 furs are reported missing by their owners, with a total value approaching $500,000. But now the store is closed and the son has apparently disappeared.
Larchmont has installed 60 new streetlights in an attempt to deter further attacks on women after dark. 2 women were raped in April and August, and 2 others were assaulted in May and June. The lights were not expected to be in use until November 15th, but Con Edison worked very quickly, taking only 5 days to complete the job, just 5 days after daylight saving time. Police are still looking for a man believed to be one rapist who has struck twice in the village. There is a reward for information leading to the capture of the rapist. If you have any information, contact the Larchmont Police.
If you found dirty water coming out of your taps recently, don't be alarmed. It's not a serious problem. LMC reporter Lynn Goodman checked it out with John Hawk of the Westchester Joint Waterworks.
Normally, New York City takes the water from the Delaware System watershed, runs it down through its Delaware Aqueduct, and allows the water to settle out in West Branch Reservoir up in Putnam County, and then again continues the water down and allows it to settle out in Kensico Reservoir here in Westchester County. And we take the water off at Shaft 22. What the city has done since about October 1st is to bypass these reservoirs and bring the water directly down from Rondout Reservoir in the Catskill Mountains. Therefore, the water doesn't have the benefit of settling out in these local reservoirs, and whatever iron is in the water is being oxidized by a higher chlorine level than usual, and this is causing the material to precipitate out, and in layman's language, we're seeing rust in the water.
You recently attended a meeting with representatives of Westchester and New York City water authorities. What was said about resolving the problem?
New York City officials indicated that they were in the process of reducing the rate of chlorination, which should help reduce the amount of chemical reaction which is causing iron in the water to precipitate. And that should hopefully very shortly show some improvement. In addition, we have increased the dosage of a corrosion control chemical that we add at our pump station.
Conservation activists have launched a campaign to clean up the sound by reminding people not to dump trash in storm sewers. The State Power Authority has come up with a $7,000 grant for the project. The money will be used to stencil a no dumping warning on a number of curbside sewers. The warning reads, "Don't dump drains to Long Island Sound." Used motor oil, plastic cups, paint, and leaves dumped in area storm drains usually end up floating in the Sound. Kim?
Now Paula Panarella introduces us to the new Parks panel members.
The Parks and Trees Committee in Larchmont gained 3 new members this week: John Malloy, Laura Sprinklemeyer, and Eleanor Wilhelm. The 3 wrote to the board seeking spots after seeing an advertisement in the village newsletter. The Board of Trustees unanimously approved appointments at a public meeting on Monday. John Malloy is a self-employed engineer who has done transportation and design work throughout New York City. Laura Sprinklemeyer is a gardener who is studying landscape design at the New York Botanical Garden in the Bronx. And Eleanor Wilhelm is pursuing a degree in landscape architect at City College of New York. The committee works on beautifying village parks and streets. A warm welcome to John, Laura, and Eleanor at the Board of Trustees and by us here at LMC News.
Now for our school news, here's LMC reporter Monique Citron.
Mamaroneck Avenue School's new kid-friendly library is a wonder to behold. It is the crown jewel of the district's new capital project. And although we didn't get to see any of the kids who did have input on every aspect of the library, we have a piece of footage showing Santo Longo, who is the husband of the librarian Madeline Longo, who is the loving architect of the project, and Madeline talking about the library.
We have maybe 8 or 9 environments. The basic concept of this library was that in these new environments, new things would happen. And they're happening, which is interesting. Children are coming down by themselves, and they're doing independent work study. Sometimes 2 or 3 children produce a play for the class, the new interactions. Classes are making plays for other classes. The mothers, and this has happened, and the father come after school and take their child to be here. So we have all these areas, Story Corner, the theater, a special classroom. That's what Student Center means. We have a little cozy place for the children with extra little chairs called Picture Book Place so they can go and be by themselves. So each one is designed to inspire the children in different ways.
Actually, we did ask the children. We showed them what different types of materials and colors, and we really did consult with them, and they were quite helpful. One boy came down and he said, you know, we think that those shelves are too, this little boy felt that the shelves were too short. He said, they should be longer. There's not enough room for the books. We went back to our original plans. We considered what he said. We decided he was right, but we didn't decide like 1, 2, 3. We thought about it for a number of days, but we listened to him, and we eventually did exactly what he said.
If you want to operate a mobile food vending service in Larchmont, you apparently have to be a veteran, or at least know one. The village has a law forbidding peddlers from parking in one spot to serve food unless they are flagged down by someone. 2 applications for permits in the past couple of months have been rejected by the Board of Trustees. But 2 coffee trucks do operate at the railroad station parking lots. Under state law, they receive special permission. There's also a hot dog truck operated by a woman on the post road. She isn't a veteran, but her cousin is, and the permit was issued in his name.
The Mamaroneck Town Council election is over, and for a look at what lies ahead, Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News reporter Roger Norum spoke with newly re-elected Deputy Town Supervisor Elaine Price.
Elaine, first of all, congratulations on the election, which I'm sure you've gotten many other congratulation notes and accolades so far. Looking ahead now that the Democrats are in control of the Town Council for the next 2, 3, 4 years, what do you see as the real challenges now facing the town?
Well, the same challenges as 2 years before, only during this recession, much more intense. Keeping the tax rate down and maintaining essential services and maintaining our quality of life. As euphemistic as that may sound, it's real.
In a nutshell, though, the other items that are on everyone's mind, what is realistically going to happen to the Larchmont Motel and when?
Okay. As we have said, we have a group working on this, and we are putting together the specifications now for an architect to work on the actual drawings of the plan. We plan to go into the shovel digging March or April.
Oh,
so yeah, we're really making a tremendous push on this because we want to see it realized. Everyone wants to see it realized, and in this economy, it's been really hard, but there's a lot of fine volunteers spending
Caddy corner
hours
across
doing
from the Larchmont Motel is what used to be Horry Chevrolet. It's now pretty, but an empty building. What's going to happen there?
Pretty indeed, thanks to the Board of Architectural Review. What's going to happen? The vacancy lights are lit all across the southern Westchester landscape, and we don't know what's going to happen yet. There's been a lot of discussions. There's a 10-year lease that 9X has, so they are paying rent.
So it's 9X building, it's just they're looking for a tenant.
Absolutely, and they're looking very hard, but in these times, so far, lots of talks, no results.
Okay, and moving further up the post road, what's the target date for the Lexus dealership to be completed? Do you have any idea?
Early spring. Early spring. I think the community's going to like what they see there. Ray Katina, who's in charge of that, has been very cooperative with our Board of Architectural Review. He's already put tremendous amount of plantings, 300 plants in the back.
And I noticed directly across the street from there is going to be a Lamborghini.
It's coming. It's coming.
Really
and,
upscale, huh?
Well, as soon as they saw Lexus, they said, "Hey, we want to be here." So they are coming. It's going to be a small showcase. And again, our Board of Architectural Review has been in there, getting landscaping in there and beautifying revitalizing the area. And they should be coming January, February.
Great. Thanks for being with us on Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
Thank you.
A new political action committee has been formed in Mamaroneck to take up the interests of Black and Hispanic residents. It's part of the New York State Coalition for Social and Economic Justice, formed by State Senator Arthur Reeve of Buffalo. Led by Brooklyn College professor Steve London, the Mamaroneck chapter has gone to work on the Hispanic Day Workers issue. The Mamaroneck Police Department has been discouraging Hispanic workers from congregating near the train station each morning while they wait for jobs. The group is also trying to work on housing and social issues, but Mayor Paul Noto doesn't seem too receptive so far, calling their approach very adversarial and their attitude patronizing.
After rejecting their sole bid of $629,000, the Mamaroneck Town Board is scrambling to save the Premium River Marsh dredging project. The town is working to attract other bidders while trying to adhere to a state-imposed completion deadline of January 31st, 1992. Regulation set by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is said to be the reason why the bid exceeded the town's budget by $10,000. The dredging will improve the marsh's health by improving the water flow into the 65-acre expanse. The marsh is home to almost 170 different species of fish, along with being the start of a food chain. The state, by the way, is paying for the entire project. Bill?
The Village of Mamaroneck has decided to settle a tax assessment case with the A&P on Mamaroneck Avenue. The supermarket will get a $60,000 refund under the deal. Village Assessor Lloyd Wright says it was cheaper to settle than to go to trial. Mayor Paul Noto suggested A&P should reduce its prices because it got a significant refund. Kim?
The Mamaroneck American Legion Post No. 90 held its Veterans Day memorial service last Monday, along with its second annual flag-burning ceremony. Vietnam veterans James Clanton and Paul Thorpe handled the flag-burning duties. There was a good turnout of residents and veterans, with over 40 flags being burned this year. Mayor Paul Noto spoke briefly on remembering the soldiers who gave their lives so we can enjoy the freedom we have today. Residents are reminded that if they are not sure how to properly dispose of their American flags, drop them off at the Legion, and Legionnaires will make sure it is done properly. A big thank you goes out to Bill Carpino for the video he did with this story.
Cable television fees are going up again January 1st. United Artists Cable Basic Service will go up $1 to $13.95, and the so-called Plus Channel service will also go up $1. So most of the system's 80,000 residential customers will soon be paying $19.95 a month instead of $17.95. Premium service charges come on top of that. The cable system also has several hundred commercial customers, mostly bars and restaurants, and their basic charge will be raised by $5 a month.
November is Diabetes Awareness Month. LMC reporter Rita Blockton discussed the availability of services in Larchmont and Mamaroneck with Carol Sears. She is a counselor for the Diabetes Association.
I don't think so. How can you tell?
14 million Americans have diabetes, but only half know it.
I do, but I manage.
November is National Diabetes Month. Learn the warning signs.
It is in the family. I don't know.
Imagine what it could be doing to your life to have diabetes and not know it.
November is National Diabetes Awareness Month, and with us is Carol Sears, a Larchmont resident, and tell us how Larchmont and Mamaroneck people can benefit from the Diabetes Association.
Well, the Westchester chapter of the American Diabetes Association, which is located in Elmsford, provides services free of charge to all residents of Westchester and their families who have diabetes. You can receive free of charge counseling services, informational services, doctor or dietitian referrals, and any kind of information that you may need as a new or a diabetic who has had diabetes for many years.
Now, what's the phone number there if somebody wanted to
call? The phone number is 914
345-9300. And in this month, what is the goal? What are some of the symptoms that one would look for? Well, the goals of National Diabetes Month are to make people aware of what diabetes is, what the symptoms are, and what you need to do if you have the symptoms. The symptoms of diabetes tend to be very clear. A person begins to feel excessive thirst. They may drink and still feel thirsty. And along with that thirst comes an excessive need to urinate. And the more you drink, the thirstier you are, and the more you have to urinate. If that seems very excessive to you, that is usually a sign that you should be tested for diabetes. Okay. Is it an easy test? It's a blood test that any doctor can do for you and have a result very quickly. Okay. So if anybody has a problem, they should get in touch with you. They can get in touch with the American Diabetes Association. If they need a referral for a doctor, we have a list of doctors all over the area in Westchester. Okay, terrific. Thank you. Thank you.
If you grew up during the Cold War, as most of us did, this next story may be hard to believe. Who would have thought 11 years ago that one of the graduates of Mamaroneck High School in 1980 would be working in Moscow as a correspondent for TASS? But that's just what Janine Babakian is doing right now. A Russian major at Brown after high school, Janine got a break this summer. We talked about her new adventure just before she left for Russia.
Janine, how did you get hooked up with TASS?
Well, it was really accidental. I was fulfilling a journalism program at NYU where I was working, and as part of course credit, I took an internship at TASS last summer. And there, the TASS bureau chief in New York got the idea to propose for Americans who had some knowledge of Russian to go work in Moscow for a year as correspondents.
So now you're going to be covering local events in Moscow.
Right, local news in Moscow for their international newswire.
And writing it in English.
Right.
For overseas distribution.
Covering in Russian and writing the stories in English.
But now you're going to be working for TASS, so you're going to be working and living like a Russian, not like an American correspondent with preferred stores to go to and so forth.
Right. The American correspondents do get paid in hard currency. I will be paid in rubles, and I will be able to exchange some of that money for dollars. That comes to about $200 a month, so I won't be making a lot of money, but I will get the flavor of waiting on the lines, and I understand there are ration goods for bread and eggs in Moscow now, so I'll get the true flavor of it.
So you're not really going with a lot of tourist goods. I gather you're going to be taking some of the necessities of life.
Yes, that's what I'm involved in right now, as a matter of fact. Lots of spaghetti, toilet paper. I understand there's a big rush on toothpaste now in Moscow, so I'll be going with an extra suitcase.
What do you really hope to get out of this? I mean, it's not the money, obviously.
Right. Well, number one, it's a great adventure. The opportunity came up. It really took me by surprise. They had mentioned that they might get this program going last summer, but frankly, I didn't really believe them because I thought, oh, here's another story of a lot of talk and nothing is going to come of it. But it's an incredible time to be in the Soviet Union. I got the offer before the coup, and once the coup in August came, I was even more excited to go. I just think that it's a country with a lot of troubles, but it's also a very exciting time to be there.
A lot of luck to you, Janine.
Thank you very much.
Janine says her contract could be extended for more than a year, but she thinks a year working like a Russian may be enough.
One of our very own Larchmont residents, Fritzie Locke, will be performing a children's concert at the Emlyn Theater on November 24th. She is the Fritzie of Fritzie and Friends. With more on the story, here's Rita Blockton.
Fritzie, on November 24th, you'll be having, well, you have one performance that's already sold out, the 1 o'clock at the Emlyn, and the 3 o'clock, there are a few seats left.
Yes, there are.
Tell us what you're going to be doing.
Well, I'm going to have a 4-piece band, which I'm really excited about. A lot of the people that are on my album. Buffy the Wizard Man, percussion, Professor Paul on the piano, keyboards, and then Big Al. Big Al's going to be on the bass. And I'm going to have a beautiful backdrop, and hopefully, actually definitely a bunch of children are going to come on stage and sing and clap for part of it, and we're going to have a great time.
What's the age range that you...
Well, it's 3 to 7, but basically anybody can come. I mean, the parents are going to enjoy it as well as the kids. You know, anybody under 3, you know, they can bring them, certainly if they're accustomed to music, but...
So they should just go to the Emlyn box office or call for tickets?
At this point, either the Emlyn box office or Cottontails, which is on Palmer Avenue in Larchmont. Tickets are still available there, too.
Okay, super. And you've got 2 albums, I understand.
Fritzy and Friends and Christmas with Fritzy and Friends, which are both all original albums.
December 5th is a special day for LMC-TV. It's our annual fundraiser, and it has a unique twist. We're inviting you to stay at home for $25. You don't have to go out, you don't have to drive, you don't have to hire a babysitter. All you have to do is sit back and enjoy some of the best of LMC-TV, and it's all commercial-free. That's December 5th. Your invitation is in the mail, but if you don't get a formal notice, call the station. Lois Teisch worked hard on the design. It's a treat to see, so don't miss it.
It's the hottest flick out of Hollywood in some time, and one of the more violent, Robert De Niro in Cape Fear. Our movie reviewer for this week is Pat Michelizzi.
Now that the holiday season is quickly approaching, lines at the department stores and shopping malls are growing even quicker. Well, expect that line at your local theater to grow as well. With the holiday hits on the way, this year's choices at the box office will provide both great entertainment and escape from the dreaded gift hunt without doing any major damage to your credit cards. One of the many blockbuster hits of the season arrived at theaters this week and is bound to stick around long after that last gift is unwrapped. Martin Scorsese teams up with Robert De Niro for the 7th time in the remake of the 1962 thriller Cape Fear. De Niro stars as Max Cady, a rapist who is fresh out of prison and after serving a 14-year term. Nick Nolte plays his defense lawyer who some 14 years ago held a piece of evidence that could have gotten Cady off the hook. But sickened by the violence of which Cady is capable, he betrayed his ethical code and made sure that he went to jail. But now Cady is back, and he's seeking revenge, terrifying the lawyer and his family, while never quite breaking the law. Take a look.
Well, now, Danny, you can just relax because your daddy has a private investigator on the payroll. Isn't that right? What's your feeling about him? What? Sam Spade, Mickey Spillane, Peter Gunn. Dirty Harry. Perry Mason.
No. Perry Mason was a lawyer. No, the minute I walked in this guy's office, I felt totally relaxed. I mean, this guy's totally in charge. Kursick deals with these types for a living. I mean, he looked like he was going to enjoy it. Yes?
Yeah, it's me.
This haunting thriller also stars Jessica Lange. Gregory Peck and Robert Mitchum, the stars of the original Cape Fear, also return in cameo roles. So if you're looking to get away from all that holiday shopping, catch this film. It's terrific. To keep up to date on all new film and video releases, watch Standing Room Only all month here on Channel 36. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Pat Michelizzi.
And that's our report for this week. I'm Kimberly Simonton.
And I'm Bill LIttauer. If you'd like to join us and volunteer to work on this program, why not drop by this Thursday evening after 7 o'clock and meet us?
The cable TV studio is in the Palmer Avenue building of the high school, just up the stairs from Walter's hot dog stand. Thank you for joining us.
We'll be back again next week at the same time.
Mamaroneck police in a race against time at the Newark airport.
A tax assessment board for Larchmont.
Mamaroneck man pleads innocent in traffic death.
And the latest school news.
Those stories and more on this week's edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Monique Citron.
And I'm Lynn Goodman. Welcome to another edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. Our top story this week: a Mamaroneck nanny has been arrested for stealing more than $70,000 worth of valuables from her employer's home on Flagler Drive. Mamaroneck Village detectives caught up with Natalie Dubois at Newark International Airport as she was about to board a Paris-bound plane. According to police, Dubois had an argument with her boss, Pascal Bertrand, and was asked to leave. Shortly thereafter, Bertrand reported the missing jewels and scarves. Police found the jewels buried under an inch of dirt near a busy street in the Park Slope section of Brooklyn. They recovered the clothes in the home of a French national with whom Dubois had been staying before her attempted flight to France.
The Mamaroneck Town Board is debating a proposal that would ban apartment house incinerators. About 65 people showed up at a meeting last week to air their views on the merits of trash contractors versus incinerators. Banning incinerators, some say, would force tenants to share their buildings with rats, cockroaches, and other vermin. Supporters of ordinary trash disposal argue that incinerators cause respiratory problems and pollute the air. The proposal applies to 5 buildings in the North Chatsworth area: 1, 2, and 3 Washington Square, 14 North Chatsworth Avenue, and 11 Alden Road. The board wants more information before it makes a decision.
I'm Roger Norum for Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, and with us now is Kathleen Tracy O'Flynn of the Mamaroneck Town Council, who's going to tell us a little bit about what happened at the last council meeting. Kathleen, what about incinerators and apartment buildings?
The Town Council proposed some legislation which would, in effect, ban incinerators in town, and the incinerators that we're talking about are incinerators that are located in North Chatsworth Avenue, and there's also an apartment building on the Boston Post Road, the Alden House. We had received
on Chatsworth Avenue near the train station?
That's right. We had received complaints over the years about soot and dust and the smell from these incinerators. And so we decided to propose legislation which would ban them. As written, they would be banned within 3 years, and these apartment houses would then have the time to convert to a compact system. We had a hearing the other night at which there were proponents and opponents of the bill.
Rather heated discussion, I understand.
Yes, it was, and both sides had some very good arguments. Those who are opposed are concerned about the expense of compaction, and on the other hand, if they were to go to dumpsters in lieu of compaction, they're concerned about the placement, their appearance, and in fact, in some apartment buildings, there's very little land, and they would almost be placed in the front yards of these buildings. And those that are in favor of the legislation believe that it would help everyone's safety and health rather than having these incinerators spewing out smoke and soot.
So there's also some action taken on storm sewers and some advice.
That's right. The Conservation Advisory Commission, which is a commission composed of residents who are volunteers, is spearheading a program whereby they would paint the storm drains in the streets in town with a message that says, "Drains to Long Island Sound." And we've got a copy of what it would look like here. There's concern that people are putting yard waste, animal waste, motor oil, and everything else under the sun into the street storm drains. And we want people to know that whatever goes in those storm drains will end up in Long Island Sound. So it's important that they understand it's strictly limited to rainwater runoff. We're looking for volunteers to help us with the stenciling, so they can contact me or the Conservation Advisory Commission. We'll be doing it in the spring.
The Mamaroneck Board of Education, still smarting from this year's budget cuts, is looking for ways to cope with inevitable budget cuts planned for next year. It's part of a 3-phase plan to counterattack the blow that further cuts would cause. The board, along with School Superintendent Norman Kolb, is discussing whether class size should be increased, more programs cut, or taxes raised. In the next phases of the plan, the board will solicit ideas from teachers, parents, and administrators on how to best prepare for the anticipated fiscal austerity.
Demolition crews are tearing down a Mamaroneck landmark. The Pure Foods factory building at 746 Mamaroneck Avenue is being cleared away. The owners of the lot, Marine Midland Bank, haven't disclosed what will take its place. The Pure Foods plant, where bullion was produced, moved to Mamaroneck in 1917 and was the community's oldest manufacturing plant before it closed its doors in 1987. After that, developers tried to build condos on the site, but couldn't get the necessary financing.
The Westchester Joint Waterworks is taking steps to get rid of that brownish color some of you have noticed in your water. They've been flushing the fire hydrants in the town of Mamaroneck. If it's successful, they'll expand the program to Mamaroneck Village in Harrison. According to Waterworks spokesman John Hawk, the water is still safe to drink, but it may stain clothing.
Last week, the purse of a 31-year-old woman was snatched by a man while she was walking on North Chatsworth Avenue near Rochelle Road. The woman was not injured in the incident. Her handbag was later found near one of the houses on Rochelle Road. Mamaroneck Town Police are still investigating.
We all remember the hit-and-run death of a girl at the corner of Boston Post Road and Keeler Avenue in Mamaroneck in early October. Gregory DeFalco, who's facing charges as a result of the incident, has pleaded not guilty in an appearance before the state Supreme Court in White Plains. He also remains free on $4,000 cash bail. The trial against DeFalco is not going to open until late February.
The Mamaroneck School District faces an increase in enrollment. LMC reporter Barbara Brown talks to Assistant Superintendent Thomas Titkin.
Could you tell us what is the purpose of your report?
The purpose of the report is to give an update on the increasing enrollment in the elementary schools. On November 12th, I gave an update on 4 years of projections. And next Tuesday, December 3rd, at the study session, I'm going to give an update on the space side of the equation. And if you remember, 2 years ago, Lloyd Bishop, who's an educator who is involved in space and enrollment projections, told the district that, one, we're going to have an increase in enrollment over the next decade, and two, looking at the schools, elementary schools as they are, there just won't be room for that long to fit kids into the schools. And so the board had a study committee made up of staff and the community to look at a number of options, which they did thoroughly and comprehensively. And then the superintendent spoke to that issue and suggested that the board, for as long as possible and as long as quality is maintained, leave the grade configuration as it is, raise class size, and look at rooms that it could be renovated and reclaimed so as to keep the cost down as long as possible, acknowledging, though, at some point there's going to be space needed in the schools.
And what did the projections show?
Projections show that, as Lloyd Bishop said, we're going to have an increase in enrollment over the next few years. About 100 students in Chatsworth and in Murray and in Mamaroneck Avenue, about 75 more kids in Central, much as Lloyd Bishop projected. Although there's some differences. Chatsworth is growing much faster than Lloyd Bishop projected. Murray is growing slower. But nonetheless, by 1995-96, in Mamaroneck Avenue and Murray anyway, you'll have used all those classrooms. So if there's some emergency, if there's a need for another section, there just won't be room at that point to add another class. I advise the board that as long as possible, we need to keep the flexibility. They raised the class size last year, which helped. They'll be looking to renovate rooms at low cost. That will also help. But at some point, and then sooner than later, they're going to have to make some hard decisions exactly what they're going to do to add space in this district.
A local thoroughfare will be closed for repairs until next year. With details, we turn to LMC-TV news reporter Enid Preter.
The Hillside Avenue Bridge in Mamaroneck has been closed to traffic for repairs and will stay closed until January 17, 1992. The bridge, which is maintained by Metro North but owned by the new State Department of Transportation, will undergo major repair work. The structural hanger bolts that tie the main truss to the floor beams will be replaced. According to Metro North, the bolts have corroded over the years and now are in such a bad shape that they need to be replaced.
The Interfaith Council for Affordable Residents is showing off their new house. LMC News reporter Kimberly Simonton spoke with the new executive director of iCare, Mary Ann Sullivan.
It's at 2 Woodland Avenue, and it's right off Palmer Avenue, between Palmer Avenue and the railroad station. And it's a home for, going to be a home for 2 homeless families. We're having an open house on December 8th from 1:30 to 3:30. And we'd like the whole community to come. because we'd like to show it off, because we have so many friends and supporters from the community, and we want them to see the eye care house. They have provided the funds, about $125,000 or more from the community, and to purchase the house, and it is pretty well ready, and we'd like them to come see the house before the homeless families move in, because there will be 2 of them there.
Great. And that's December 8th?
Yes, the open house is December 8th between 1:30 and 3:30 at 2 Woodland Avenue. And all the members of the Eye Care Board really hope everybody comes.
Newspaper recycling crews in Mamaroneck Village will not be collecting papers on several Wednesdays during the holiday season. There'll be no pickup on November 27th, December 25th, or New Year's Day. The village will be collecting leaves for composting through the end of December.
It took 22 years, but Larchmont properties may finally be up for reassessment. LMC News reporter Barbara Brown has more.
The Larchmont Board of Trustees unanimously passed the law that will set up an independent board of assessment review in the village. The board will be modelled after an already existing board in the town of Mamaroneck. It will consist of a contractor, a real estate agent, and a property appraiser. The village board will probably appoint 3 local residents in the middle of December. A decision still has to be made on whether all properties in the village should be reassessed. Such a proposal has been discussed for quite some time now, and it does have support among the residents. The last assessment of all properties took place 22 years ago.
The Mamaroneck town elections are finally over, and with a wrap-up is Paula Panarella.
It's not the official count, but unofficial results released by the Westchester County Board of Elections show that Paul Ryan has defeated Valerie O'Keefe for a 2-year term on the Mamaroneck Town Board. As expected, the margin between the two remained very small, just 101 votes. Paul Ryan was able to raise those deciding votes to beat his opponent. Valerie O'Keefe had already conceded that she had lost on November 7th, although the absentee ballots had not yet been counted.
The same hard economic times that has Larchmont residents keeping a closer eye on their checkbook has the Larchmont Board of Trustees keeping a closer eye on their bookkeeping. Budget Committee member Kenneth Mayer is suggesting that monthly village financial reports be more extensively prepared. Mayer's proposal includes listing the previous year's expenses alongside current costs. Larchmont Village Treasurer Carmine DeLuca's monthly reports to village trustees currently only tabulate yearly expenses to date. The Board of Trustees will formally reply to Mayor's proposal by December.
At 325 Fayette Avenue in Mamaroneck, Archie, Betty, Veronica, and Jughead are celebrating an anniversary. 50 years ago this year, the Archie character first appeared in a segment of Pep Comics, published by what was then known as MLJ Magazines. Archie was so popular that the company was renamed Archie Comic Publications. While other early comic book characters were superheroes like Superman and Captain Marvel, who solved problems through physical force, Archie was just a regular guy, whose brand of adventure was more wholesome, sock hops and high school pranks. Archie and his friends became so popular in the 60s and 70s that there was an Archie cartoon, an Archie rock band, and a hit single, Sugar Sugar. Today, Archie Comics is run by the sons and grandchildren of the original publishers. They moved from New York to Mamaroneck to be closer to their Westchester homes. It's now the 3rd largest comic book publisher with 31 titles and over 16.5 million books sold each year. Happy birthday, Archie.
And by the way, another happy birthday to our cameraman, Mike Stock. And that's it for this week's edition of LMC News.
Remember, you can watch this program every weekday night at 7 o'clock and every midnight. If you're tired of passively sitting in front of your TV, zapping through the channels for something you'd like to watch, why don't you become active and join us in putting together this news program? It's fun, you meet nice people, and you get to know a lot about our communities. So why don't you join us? We're all volunteers and meet every Thursday evening at 7 in the Palmer Avenue studio of LMC-TV in Mamaroneck High School, just up the stairs from Walter's hot dog stand. But don't come this Thursday. Instead, enjoy your turkey. And have a great holiday.
Thanks for watching Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Monique Citron.
And I'm Lynn Goodman. Good night.
and welcome to Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News. I'm Barbara Brown.
And I'm Bill LIttauer. Coming up this week, village residents may face a 36% town tax hike.
Head lice at Central School. We'll tell you what you can do about it if your child becomes infected.
Some new projects planned to improve traffic in our area.
Another woman assaulted in the Larchmont area.
The town of Mamaroneck is being squeezed by delinquent taxpayers, and the rest of us will probably have to make up their share. The town has almost $1 million in town, county, and school tax liens going back to 1983. The town faces lengthy legal proceedings against the delinquent taxpayers, but it has to make good now on its bills. So even with budget cuts, the town has a preliminary spending plan that calls for a 36% increase in town taxes for residents of the village of Mamaroneck and Larchmont, and 6.7% increase for the unincorporated area. On a home assessed at $20,000, that would be an increase of about $220 for village residents and about $160 for town residents.
The village of Mamaroneck has ended its fiscal year with a deficit of almost $100,000. It's the first deficit in years, and it will be covered by a windfall of state aid. But village clerk treasurer Leonard Verastro says the future isn't so bright. The problem is a reduced level of state aid and property tax refunds. The village has made out-of-court settlements costing hundreds of thousands of dollars with property owners who challenged their tax assessments.
Another assault in our area, this one in the town. Kimberly Simonton has that report.
Last week, a 47-year-old woman fell victim to a purse snatcher as she walked along Chatsworth Avenue. She was struck twice in the face as her pocketbook was grabbed off of her shoulder. A team of 7 detectives from Mamaroneck and New Rochelle arrested 22-year-old Carl Paris in front of his house in New Rochelle. Paris is also charged with attacking a 57-year-old man in front of Barnard School in New Rochelle on November 22nd. He repeatedly hit the man in the face before finally stealing his wallet. Paris was jailed without bail at the Westchester County Jail in Valhalla, charged with second-degree robbery and resisting arrest.
Head lice have invaded Central School. School principal Milton Myskin is reported to have acknowledged that they have sent from 20 to 25 children home. Lice are prevalent throughout Westchester County at this time of the year. The Central School was to undergo insecticide bombing last weekend. The Westchester Department of Health has the following tips for treating head lice. If your child is scratching, check for little nits which look like white flecks on the follicle. Use shampoo that contains pyrethrins and follow instructions on the bottle. Wash all washable clothes, bedclothes, and stuffed animals in hot water for 20 minutes. Furniture and rooms can be sprayed with pyrethrins or bombed with insecticides. Remove pets from the area. Do not share combs, clothing, lockers, headgear, and good luck.
Work is expected to start next year on a project to improve the 5-mile stretch of Mamaroneck Avenue between White Plains and downtown Mamaroneck. Westchester County is accepting bids this week on the $450,000 project. It's designed to improve driver safety. There will be new signs, new lane markers, and a left turn lane for traffic heading eastbound into Rosedale Avenue in White Plains.
Traffic on the thruway should improve next week once contractors remove their concrete barriers. 2 lanes of traffic will also be restored. The $47 million project is being suspended for the winter. Completion is scheduled for next December. The project runs from the North Avenue Cedar Street exit in New Rochelle to the Rye exit.
It's called Project Explore and Discover. LMC reporter Joseph Chamberlain tells us all about it.
A fledgling after-school program in Mamaroneck Village is assisting 18 community fledglings that are between the ages of 7 and 14 years old. The Community Action Program, with the help of the Mamaroneck Village Board of Trustees, the Junior League of Westchester on the Sound, Aetna Corporation, and matched donations from the community, have ensured that Project Explore and Discover is doing very well. The after-school program, directed by Beverly Villa, is free and open to Mamaroneck residents. The program consists of 3-hour sessions after school on Mondays and Thursdays. It's staffed by 6 volunteers, and there are openings for 3 or 4 more volunteers to assist with tutoring and arts and crafts. The 14-month-old project has provided art workshops, trips, homework, and tutorial help to its participants. And this young organization is planning a camping trip for next year.
The Mamaroneck police have arrested Terry Stanley in connection with a series of car break-ins in the Oriental section of the village. Police say they have recovered some of the stolen items. Lieutenant Ed Flynn said Stanley was being investigated as part of a car break-in ring that did considerable damage.
The family of a 73-year-old woman who was killed in a traffic accident a year ago has filed a $2 million lawsuit against the village of Mamaroneck. It was November 21st, 1990, that Mary Dwyer of Palmer Court, Mamaroneck, had parked her car on Grand Street and was waiting to cross the street. A tractor-trailer turned from Madison Street into Grand, and as it passed, its middle section crushed Mary Dwyer against her car. She died of multiple injuries about 6 hours later. The driver of the tractor-trailer was charged with driving under the influence of drugs. Her son, Michael, now charges the village was negligent in the posting and maintenance of traffic signs along the west side of Grand Street. He's seeking $1 million in damages for pain and suffering and medical expenses and an additional $1 million for wrongful death.
The Larchmont rapist is still at large. In April, a 49-year-old woman was raped while walking home from the train station, and in August, a 15-year-old was raped while walking on Prior Lane. Police believe that one black male committed both rapes. He is about 6 feet tall, thin, and in his late 20s or early 30s. Residents have been urged to call in the slightest suspicious incidents. This has resulted in an overwhelming number of calls describing black males who showed no explained cause for suspicion. Julia Brown of Larchmont Mamaroneck Association for Advancement of Colored People said that people should be more careful before reporting someone. She feels this could become an explosive situation if everybody is not careful.
It's a 53-year-old landmark in Mamaroneck, but it needs a little help. LMC reporter Kimberly Simonton has that report.
I'm standing here in front of the Girl Scout house on Harmon Drive. The house was built in 1938, and as you can tell, it needs a few repairs. The Girl Scout Council approved a new roof and some electrical work earlier this year. Other improvements include replacing existing doors and windows. The cost of those repairs are between $10,000 to $12,000. The Girl Scouts are asking for $10,000 from their Girl Scout fund set up in 1981 by the Mamaroneck Village Board of Trustees. The fund came from the sale of the Girl Scout property on Hampshire Road and contains about $34,000. Standing at the Girl Scout house on Harmon Drive, I'm Kimberly Simonton for LMC-TV News.
If you're still having trouble with discolored water, the county health commissioner says he knows about it and officials are working on the problem. The discoloration may be due to small amounts of rust and similar compounds in the water. Commissioner Mark Rappaport says it's a possible result of higher than normal levels of residual chlorine and oxygen in the water. He says New York City officials are trying to reduce those levels and to draw more water from the west branch of the Delaware than the Roundout Reservoir. In any event, while the water may appear unpalatable, he says water samples tested so far indicate an acceptable level of bacteria. He says they hope to correct the problem soon.
Next time you visit your family, you may have to watch out. Araldo Robonales went to visit his sister, Matilda Lopez. When he got there, she and her boyfriend beat him up and robbed him. The suspects were arraigned and are being held on $25,000 cash bail or bond at the Westchester County Jail in Valhalla.
They call it a trot, but the speed was a lot faster than that at one of our annual community events. LMC reporter Jamie Stein has that report.
Last week, the annual Mamaroneck Turkey Trot was off and running. As you may know, it's sponsored every year by the Mamaroneck Village Recreation Department. The runners included the fleet-footed from the little sprinters age 9 to the more seasoned runners age 69. A hale and hearty 330 runners finished the 5-mile race, which began at 10 a.m. at the intersection of Boston Post Road and Mamaroneck Avenues, and ran a course that ended in Harbor Island Park. The winner among the men was Ted Nell, 26, of Mount Vernon, who finished with a time of 24 minutes, 18 seconds. And only 5 minutes behind him for the woman was Liz Humphrey Felipe, 27, of New York City, who finished with a time of 29 minutes, 39 seconds. But let's not forget about the local winners in the different categories. Louis Arias, Kenneth Jones, and David McConney, all from Larchmont, and Gerard Pizzo, Richard Land, Seymour Weingarter, Sandra Levine, and Susie Rock, all from Mamaroneck. Every runner was rewarded with a hot, delicious bowl of turkey soup and crackers. To all those who entered the 5-mile race and crossed the finish line, I salute you. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Jamie Stein.
Scott Lairs is Mamaroneck's first ever World Series hero. Lairs hit the game-winning home run in the bottom of the 8th inning, Game 2 of this year's World Series for the Minnesota Twins against the Atlanta Braves. The Twins went on to win the series in 7 games. Mayor Paul Noto and the Village Board of Trustees honored Minnesota Twins third baseman Scott Lairs with a proclamation and his own special day. Police Chief Joseph Del Bianco also honored Lairs with a plaque.
The town of Mamaroneck has been cited for having the county's most comprehensive composting program. The town's composting site was closed about 2 years ago and now contracts out the composting to a firm in Lebanon, Connecticut. The town collects the leaves at curbside and earth grow trucks from Lebanon take it out of town. 2,000 tons of leaves were removed in 1990 alone. The village of Mamaroneck was also cited for its curbside recycling program involving apartment buildings and co-ops. Barbara?
Now our weekly movie review, this week for the boys. Here's Pat Michelizzi.
Since captivating the nation in the early 70s as the outrageous Divine Miss M, Bette Midler has gone on to become an internationally recognized superstar of film, television, concerts, and recordings. Midler's diverse talents have earned her an Academy Award nomination for her role in The Rose back in 1979, an Emmy, 3 Grammys, and a Tony Award, as well as the respect and admiration of her peers in the entertainment industry. Well, if she's trying to set an award record, she's definitely on the right track with her latest project. For the Boys opened last Friday at Mamaroneck Playhouse. Midler stars with James Caan as USO performers. They entertained American troops for a half a century. Radio gave way to television, and the Cold War replaced the World War, but they still survived. 3 wars, 9 presidents, the baby boom, and the Beatles. They became legends. Let's take a look.
The wonderful Miss Dixie Leonard. Well, hi.
Are you trying to get into my flax suit, honey?
I'm just trying to debrief you.
I want some hugging and some squeezing and some hugging and some teasing and some stuff like that.
Dixie sang the songs.
It's a bunch of horny guys. I mean, how are you going to lose, right? In that case, let me at him.
Eddie told the jokes.
2 hours along with you, that boy deserves a Purple Heart.
Well, it was purple, all right, but I don't think it was his heart.
This film is definitely worth seeing, but remember to bring those tissues because For the Boys is really more for the tear ducts. To keep up to date on all new film releases, catch me on Standing Room Only all this month on Channel 36. For Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, I'm Pat Michelizzi.
And that's our report for this week. I'm Barbara Brown. Remember, this is a volunteer community effort. If you'd like to join us, just drop in next Thursday night at 7 p.m.
You'll find us in the Palmer Avenue building of the high school, just up the stairs from Walter's Hot Dog Stand. Now, thanks for joining us. I'm Bill LIttauer. We'll see you again next week at the same time.
Just in time for the holiday season, a Mamaroneck family reunited.
Larchmont gets a second fire truck.
A priest boycotts a service.
Mamaroneck Towers nears completion.
Santa comes to Larchmont. These stories and more on this edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News.
And I'm Sven Oehme. Our top story tonight.
A Mamaroneck family will spend the holidays together for the first time in 6 years. That's how long it took Joseph Palancia to locate his daughter Paula, who's now 10, and his son Joseph, now 8. 6 years ago, his former wife took the children for a visit and never brought them back, even though Palancia had legal custody of both of them. Last month, the children were featured on the TV show Missing Reward. A viewer recognized them and led authorities to Glenwood Springs, Colorado, where they were living with their mom. A Colorado judge at first refused to enforce Palancia's right to custody, but after several hearings, he was allowed to take his children back home to Mamaroneck. It took some time for the children to recognize their father, but the memories came back after the family spent several hours looking at old photographs.
A Larchmont man has been charged with public lewdness after exposing himself on West Boston Post Road a couple of nights ago. Over the last couple of weeks, several similar incidents have occurred in our area. One of them happened in the Larchmont train station tunnel, and another incident, a Harrison police officer was arrested in Mamaroneck.
Last week, Mamaroneck Village residents voted on whether to create a special library district, which would place library spending directly in the hands of the voters. With more on this, here's LMC News reporter Kimberly Simonton.
Mamaroneck voters have approved the creation of a special library district by a 2-to-1 margin. This means that the Library Board of Trustees will have to seek voter approval to increase the library's budget each year, and it takes library budget matters out of the hands of the Mamaroneck Village Board of Trustees. The voters also approved the proposed 1992 library budget of about $733,000. For LMC News, I'm Kimberly Simonton.
Commuters had some tough times lately. Here is LMC News reporter Barbara Brown with a report on the trains.
The last 2 weeks have been a bad time for commuters from Larchmont and Mamaroneck. One evening, trains out of Grand Central between 5 and 7 p.m. were delayed. The next day, the 6:19 train to Harrison was delayed for 10 to 15 minutes. No announcement was made as to the cause of the delay. People on the platform had to breathe the fumes of one very old-looking diesel locomotive that Metro North is still using. As bad as the exhaust fumes are for the environment, they are definitely not good for people to inhale. On December the 3rd, the 8:20 train out of Mamaroneck was 15 minutes late due to an overhead wire that was down. The next day, that train was again late by 15 minutes. A sample of people who rode the train last week agree that the service is slipping. What seems to be a change from prior policy, crews now rarely give an explanation about delays.
Some drivers in Mamaroneck had an unpleasant surprise when they returned to their cars last week in Mamaroneck. Windows of 8 cars were smashed in the village while the cars were parked. Most of the vandalism occurred near the Mamaroneck train station. The police have no suspects yet.
The budget is again on the minds of the Mamaroneck Town Board. LMC News reporter Rita Blockton got a summary of last week's town board meeting from newly re-elected board member Paul Ryan.
Paul, tell me a little bit about last week's meeting.
Last week's town board meeting?
Yes.
Well, the first thing we discussed, or one of the important things we discussed, was LMC-TV. And as you know, I'm on the Board of Control, one of the representatives from the 3 municipalities. Yes. And we will be undergoing negotiations with the UACC Columbia this coming year for contract renegotiations. And we've reappointed Joe Frioli to be our administrator. Mm-hmm. Usually that's a position held by the village manager of Mamaroneck, but in this case we want to keep Joe on.
He's been doing this for the last 10 years at least,
He's been doing it since its inception, and we really feel that his expertise and everything is needed during these rough times coming up.
And then you were also talking about the budget.
Well, there was our first public hearing on the town budget. We have had public work sessions where people have come and watched us trim and trim some more. But this was the first real public hearing. We have released the preliminary budget prior to its approval on December 18th.
So that's coming up very soon.
It's coming up very soon, and there will be alterations in the meantime, but the way it looks, there will be increases. For the unincorporated area, it'll be, I believe, $7.80 per thousand, and for the two villages, Larchmont and Mamaroneck, it will be $3 a thousand.
Also, there was this big issue of people not paying their taxes.
That's the worst part. 3 or 4 years ago, we only had tax liens in the amount of, maybe $250,000. Right now, we're expecting for the 91-92 year to be up over $1 million, $1.1 million.
In the whole?
In the whole. I mean, this is a loss of, it's not only a loss of revenue to us in the town because we don't get our money, but it's a double hit because we have to pay the Board of Education the school taxes that haven't been paid, regardless, and we have to pay the county taxes. So it's eating into our reserves at a terrific pace, and we're really feeling the pinch on it.
I'm just curious, we're really out of time, but is there any recourse? Is there anything we can do about it?
We are looking into changing the county law or having it changed and challenging it in court because it's really an onerous burden on local towns and one that we can no longer afford.
Thanks, Rita. The budget discussion in the town will probably be a heated one. A neighborhood group in our area, the Larchmont Gardens Association, has asked the town board to curb any increase in spending for the 1992 budget.
The Reverend Joseph F. Irvin, who is the pastor of Holy Trinity Roman Catholic Church in Mamaroneck, refused to take part in a Thanksgiving interfaith service. His reason for not participating in the service at United Methodist Church in Mamaroneck, that was attended by local Jewish and Christian church leaders, is that some of the ministers are pro-choice and do not oppose abortion. Reverend Irvin has been a very outspoken opponent of abortion in the past. He put up an anti-abortion sign on the church lawn earlier this year. When that sign was vandalized some weeks ago, it was immediately replaced by a new sign.
The Larchmont Village Board has made a decision on one of the taxi parking spaces in the village. Greg Federbush has the details.
Leon's Taxi and Larchmont Station Taxi, which are Larchmont's two taxi services, started an intense competition last week over a parking spot at the train station. The two taxi stands battled over a single rented parking space vacated by an independent cab driver. Both taxi services lobbied the Village Board of Trustees for this issue in separate letters. Larchmont Station Taxi won the fight on Monday night. The board unanimously voted to grant the company a one-year contract to rent the space. Leon's Taxi already had to surrender 2 spots to their competitor in May when that business opened. Leon's used to have 10 spots and 2 were taken away from them. The Village Board solicited other cab companies to create competition. There have been many complaints over time about Leon's Taxi. Larchmont Station Taxi has built a solid reputation since their inception in May. Mayor Miriam Kernan stated that the quality of the cars and drivers and the courtesy were excellent and should be rewarded.
The Larchmont Fire Department can look back on a pretty exciting year. They celebrated their department's centennial with some memorable activities, and they received the approval for 2 new trucks to replace worn-out equipment. The first truck had been approved earlier this year. The village board was more than surprised when a little later during the year, Fire Chief James Sweeney was asking them for another truck. After some discussions over the last couple of weeks, the village board unanimously approved the new truck last week. The total amount that has to be spent on the new equipment will almost reach $500,000. But as the 2 new trucks will be supplied by the same manufacturer and will also be almost identical, some costs can be saved because there will be no need for a second design. This should also speed up the delivery of the second truck. Chief Sweeney told the board that the 2 new trucks would reduce the response time and would also enable the fire department to better fight a blaze.
What's new in our schools? Here's Barbara Brown to tell us what's going on.
There are 300+ educators in the Mamaroneck School District, but only 5% are ethnic minorities. At a time when 18% of the school's body come from minority backgrounds, the composition of the staff and its ability to educate for a multiracial world is being questioned. The district has a very low teacher turnover rate. Still, it seems to be headed in the right direction, says Ian Spear, chairman of the Mamaroneck Human Rights Commission. Besides interviewing minority candidates, the district is involved in the Fordham University Intensive Program, which attempts to bring in minority educators. It's time for Kinesthesia, a series of dances choreographed and danced by Mamaroneck High School PACE students. It's a varied program and sure to delight. Thursday, Friday and Saturday of this week in the temporary PACE Center on the 3rd floor of the Post Road building. You can get tickets at the door. Senior Gold Card members go free, and lucky seniors will be the guests of honor at a party Thursday, December 11th, sponsored by the Mamaroneck High Future Business Leaders. It takes place at the town center, lunchtime, and along with lunch, caroling and dancing are on the menu. A special salute to 12 little Earth Savers from the Murray Avenue Elementary School who've created an Earth Savers Club dedicated to cleaning up the messy litter they see. The founders are Emily Gunter and Carol Day, who donate their lunch periods to the cleanups. Well done.
Mamaroneck Towers, the large building on Halstead Avenue, just opposite the Mamaroneck train station, is near completion. All work should be finished by the end of the year. The 8-story building has 55 one-bedroom apartments and 19 studios. The project is sponsored by the Washingtonville Housing Alliance. Financing is provided through a U.S. Department of Housing and Development mortgage. All apartments and studios will only be rented to senior citizens. 26 apartments are reserved for Mamaroneck residents. Under the Section 8 program of HUD regulations, the rents will be subsidized. Tenants will have to contribute 30% of their income towards the rent.
Minnesota Twins champ Scott Leius is being honored by yet another hometown group for his terrific performance in the World Series. This time, it's the Mamaroneck Village Lions Club, which last week held a special luncheon at the Rye Golf Club. Leius has already been honored by the Mamaroneck Village Police. He's a 1983 graduate of Mamaroneck High and the first village resident to make it to the World Series. This holiday season, the gift-giving spirit has been tempered with news of layoffs and recession. Has the sluggish economy affected local merchants in our community?
People are being a little more conservative with their money. I find that the necessity items are selling really well, like boots and, sneakers, but, it has affected us for sure. I don't know the percentages offhand, but, business isn't as good as it normally would be.
We noticed particularly that people are not using credit cards. And we always felt with credit cards, was the impulse buying. They would pick this up and they'd say, well, I really don't know whether I need it or not, but oh, what the heck, I'll put it on my credit card. They're not doing it this year.
I think a lot of people get really tired of just listening to the newscasters at 6, 11 o'clock at night. I know I do. I hear this, and they say, oh, things are this and things are that. How about some cheerful news for a change? I'm really tired of that.
The season's off to a slow start, but we won't know until December 26th how merchants will fare this year.
The Human Rights Commission of the Village of Larchmont and the Village and Town of Mamaroneck are seeking nominees for the 3rd annual Martin Luther King Jr. Award. The award honors an individual organization whose activities have exemplified the principles and deeds of Martin Luther King Jr. It will be presented in observation of Martin Luther King Jr. Day on January 15, 1992 at the Emlyn Theater. If you have a nomination in mind, write down the name, address and phone number of the person or group, along with a one-page statement of the acts that you believe qualify that person or group for the award. Send it to Chairperson, Town of Mamaroneck Human Rights Commission, Mamaroneck Town Center, 740 West Boston Post Road, Mamaroneck, New York, 10543. Nominations must be received no later than December 13th. Don March, the president of the Mamaroneck Historical Society, will tell us about a very interesting meeting this week.
I'm Donald March. I'm president of Mamaroneck's Historical Society, and I'd like to invite the community to a special commemorative program for the 50th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor, December the 7th, 1941. This coming Wednesday, December the 11th, at the Mamaroneck Free Library in a community room, we'll be putting on a special presentation to commemorate that anniversary. We'll be showing you live clips from the actual attack on Pearl Harbor. We'll have some genuine artifacts, and even more important, we'll be bringing you 3 actual survivors from the Pearl Harbor attack to tell of their experiences. If you have any interest in any kind of history of this type, we welcome you to attend. Of course, bring your recollections of where you were on December the 7th, 1941.
Santa Claus is coming, and Paula Panarella tells us where and when.
Santa Claus is coming to town. He will arrive in Larchmont on Saturday, December 14th. Santa's first stop will be Flint Park, where he will be met by a horse-drawn carriage. He will make his way through Larchmont Business District Saturday morning, and he will let out at the old Millette service station on Palmer Avenue. Last week, a 22-foot spruce Christmas tree was put up at this site. There was sound machine playing holiday tunes, and carolers are expected to join in and sing along.
A former Larchmont resident is honored for his broadcasting work. With more on that, here's LMC News reporter Joe Chamberlain.
As many of us know, a Larchmont resident, Robert E. Dallas, died at the age of 59 while vacationing in Budapest in August. Mr. Dallas had worked for the New York Bureau of the Los Angeles Times for 25 years. Mr. Dallas accumulated several prestigious prizes for his work, as well as co-authoring the 1975 book, The Impossible Dream. In addition to his reporting, he was a professor of journalism at 4 major New York universities. Recently, Turner Broadcasting memorializes Mr. Dallas by sponsoring the Robert E. Dallas Memorial Lecture. The first of these annual events, celebrating distinguished journalists, is scheduled for 10:45 a.m. on December 15th at the New York Society of Ethical Culture Sanctuary in Manhattan. This year's honoree and lecturer is Peter Arnett of Cable News Network, who spent during the Persian Gulf War. Mr. Arnett also spent 13 years as an Associated Press reporter in Vietnam and has won a Pulitzer Prize.
In between snowfalls, why not get some exercise outdoors and take advantage of the free paddle tennis clinics the Village of Larchmont is offering at Flint Park? The village wants to increase interest in the sport, which is played on an enclosed wooden platform with paddles instead of tennis rackets. You need a permit to play on the Flint Park courts. They cost $45 for residents and $65 for non-residents. For more information, call the Larchmont Village Recreation Department.
And that's it for this week's edition of Larchmont Mamaroneck Community News, your neighborhood news show on LMC-TV. I'm Sven Oehme.
And I'm Lynn Goodman. Remember, you can see this program every weekday night at 7 and midnight. Every Thursday night, we meet here to put together a new show. It's fun to do, and we'd like to see you join us.
We have produced 49 shows so far this year, and we still enjoy it. So come to our studio up the stairs from Walter's Hot Dog Stand in the Palmer Avenue building of the high school.
We'll see you next week.